Welcome to the Franchise Woman Podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged. I'm Rebecca Monet. I'm the CEO and Chief Scientist at Zoracle Profiles. I'm here with my co-host, community advocate, speaker, author, and entrepreneur, Tracy Kawa. And Tracy, you've heard me talk about Sherri Seiber for a while. We finally got her on the show. She's our special guest. Sherri is the president of FranFund. Among her core responsibilities is business development, strategic direction, and creating a culture of delivering value while achieving customer satisfaction. Sherri is a frequent speaker, moderator, and webinar host on all things franchising and has authored numerous articles on franchise financing. She's been recognized as one of the most influential women in franchising in numerous publications. Bottom line, Sherri is loved and respected by everyone in franchising. So welcome to the show, Sherri.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca and Tracy. I'm really happy to be here. Love working with you guys.
Well, I definitely have heard Rebecca talk about you, Sherri, and she is always raving about you, that you're positive, that you're upbeat, that when you're in a room, there's no stranger in that room. So I really want to hear more about this. Do you consider yourself charismatic? Have you always been charismatic?
Well, charismatic, I wouldn't have thought of that word, and I'm really honored that you would use that talking about me. But really, the truth is, I just love people. I really, really do. Enjoy meeting people, being with people, talking to people. And so it's not new. This is the me. This is the real me. That's my favorite part of being in a career, is meeting people.
You know, it's interesting in franchising, Sherri. There are friend groups and even cliques like we would see in high school or university, right? Um, but when I go on an event and you're there, you you just seem to attract people. And I know, I mean, I can talk to you about anything, and I look for you at events. But if I go back in memory, I'm pretty sure it was you that spoke to me first, because in those situations, I do tend to be a little bit more reserved. So, do you search for people like me that are a little bit more quiet and reserved?
I absolutely do, Rebecca, because I'm at a point in my career, my age, women of a certain age or whatever. I have different objectives in life. And so at a conference, I am looking for those people that are not in a clique, that maybe sort of hugging the back wall, that are trying not to look like they're confused, or that are trying not to look like they're alone. And I will approach them because most of the time they're relieved to have somebody just to speak to, and maybe they have and I always, one of the things I say is, look, after I've met somebody, that is, I'm the queen of dumb questions. So if after whatever you've seen today, like there's some question that pops up and you are too embarrassed to ask anybody else, ask me. I may laugh at you, but I will answer your question. So
That's great. That's great. Do you consider yourself to be an ambassador of franchise?
Oh, well, how can you not be? Franchising is, I mean, it's unbelievable what can be accomplished in the franchise industry as an owner, as working for a franchise, as contributing to the International Franchise Association, as part of the economy, your family and friends. We all are users of franchises. There's a lot of things to be happy about and to share.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that, Sherri. Franchising, I call it the last bastion of free enterprise system. It allows people to get into business that aren't inventors and creators themselves, but they have smarts and determination, and there's a way to go into business by partnering with a franchisor. So I am always talking franchising, so we become natural ambassadors. So Sherri, some of this include get those people on the fringes, allow them to ask you questions, all of that. How does some of that apply to you as a leader at FranFund with your team? You have a very unique team. It's heavy female, right? There's many women on your team. So tell us a little bit about your leadership style.
I'd love to. Well, I will expand first on the fact that not only do we have plenty of women on our sales team, they're out of the leaders of FranFund, 75% are women. And that's not on purpose. It was just who was the best person for the job when the job was available. And I think that that's something we can say generally about franchising, is that franchising is an industry that has embraced female leaders. And there are plenty of fabulous examples and role models in the franchise industry at all levels, founders, CEOs, down to, operations teams and running their own businesses. And I just love that as a slice of America that contributes so much to the economy. That's a very good look. And
Nice.
for our team, we are, we're a funding company, right? But you can't sell money to somebody that's not buying anything. So we position ourselves more as we're a step, we're a resource. The franchisor is attempting to find the best candidates to be franchisees. Maybe the franchise consultants are trying to help place somebody in the right business. We're just this little old funding company in the middle trying to help an entrepreneur realize their dream of business ownership by providing funding solutions. And so as a result of that, we're respectful about our conversations with the people, and respectful in the way that recognizing one of the biggest purchases they've ever made, one of the biggest decisions of their lives, when you talk to them about their retirement funds or about their potential of committing 10 years to a loan, 10 years to the business, 10 years to the loan, putting your retirement funds in play, that is a serious conversation. So while we may meet our referral sources in broker conferences, franchise conferences, IFA, other industry events, we rarely meet our actual candidate face to face. So we're on the phone with them. I am very cognizant of the fact that you don't speak to everybody on the phone the same way. But how do you tell? How do you tell who you're speaking to and how or what way you should deliver the message to that person? So I found a few years ago an emotional intelligence coach, and I knew Rebecca would love that because that's her business up and down. But I can't exactly do a Zoracle profile on my candidates because that's not our job. But I can teach our funding consultants how to recognize certain clues when talking to somebody on the phone and how they would like to hold the conversation. A conversation with a boomer, a 60-something-year-old, is a completely different conversation than a 32-year-old. And we are trying to make sure we accommodate all people and answer the questions and give them information so they can make good decisions in a way they can absorb it.
Okay, I'm so excited about this topic,
Yeah,
Tracy.
Rebecca, dig in. How about it?
It's so interesting as you talk. I am officially a boomer, And I had a conversation yesterday with someone probably in his early 30, a franchisor that we're going to be onboarding. And I was going through, basically a few slides on a PowerPoint. And he interrupted me after about 3 graphs or whatever. And he said, "Can you put that PowerPoint aside and let me just see your software? I'm already convinced this is." And I realized there was a generational difference and I missed it, until he pointed it out. So these generational things, if we don't have the emotional and social intelligence and we don't have behavioral adaptability, we could lose some clients, right? So tell me more about how you train your team in this emotional and social intelligence pieces.
Well, I want to mention, I'll just say that this lady that we've been using for, well, my husband asked me one time, my husband, the CEO of FranFund, by the way, asked me as he saw her come in the door for another sales meeting after about the 5th time, he said, "Sherri, don't you guys know everything this woman knows by now?" I'm like, far from it, because every time I ask her to come, there's a slightly different slant on something I want to take. So I'll just share one of her lessons to us. Well, a couple of them. One was she told us that people only hear 3 out of the 7 words you say the first time you say them. Now, if you are on the phone with somebody and you can't see them nod their head or shake their head, you can't see whether they're making their grocery list or reading email, or you can't tell, you have to have some methodology to make sure you're being understood without using an annoying method of, "Hey, did you get that? Did you get that? Did you hear me? Do you understand? Blah, blah, blah." So there are some tools that you can use so that you don't annoy the hell out of somebody with your questions. And a lot of that has to do with the particular personality of the person. One example that she gave us, and it's so simple, it's a personality compass. North people, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, give me the answer. South people, tell me a story, and then let's be circular and revisit it a couple of times while I get the whole story, because I'm not linear. And then, Northwest and Southwest and all that, there's gradation, right? We're on the bell curve now. We got the little gradients over here. But hey, you can tell after being on the phone with somebody for 3 or 4 minutes, approximately which direction on the compass they fall, and you can adjust your conversation accordingly. So that's one example.
That not only sounds incredible for everyone, I'm imagining someone who has English as a second language, right? Just it's so critical, isn't it, to make sure that everybody understands and that everybody's on the same page.
And when you repeat yourself, because they only heard 3 out of the 7 words, make sure you're saying the words they're interested in hearing, not just repeating the 7 words, right? We don't always get it right, but we try. We try and ask the right questions, and then we try to listen more than we talk. And so, I mean, it's serious stuff. You've got somebody who is considering a very long-term commitment to a franchise system, and possibly a 10-year long SBA loan, possibly including their retirement plan in the conversation. And so it's pretty serious. So we're not joking when we're having these conversations, yet we're trying to make people feel comfortable to ask the questions and to fully understand how the funding piece works.
You mentioned that a lot of this is done over the phone. So like we don't have those visual cues. And so it forces us to listen more carefully and to try to calibrate northeast, southwest, southwest, northeast, whatever it is. And we have to do that through tone of voice or pace at which they're talking or words that they are using. So really, I would think would increase our sensory acuity, where we really would be listening and calibrating more frequent, better, I should say probably better than we would otherwise. I heard someone say the other day that Zoom, a lot of times we're really only looking at ourselves, not at the client, and that this is starting to cause some issues with rapport building. We're worried about, if a hair is out of place or whatever. Where on the phone, you're really concentrating more, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that, the Zoom versus telephone idea?
Well, first of all, I always make sure to put the person I'm talking to in the middle so that my eyes aren't looking in the wrong direction on the camera. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, people have asked me, well, a lot of people are using Zoom to communicate. Why aren't you guys adopting that? Okay, well, first of all, the franchisors are evaluating the potential franchisee. They're looking for personality. They're looking for image. They're looking for different things that are none of our business.
Mhm.
That's not our business. Our business is to find out, can we find a financial solution for this person? And so if someone asks to be on Zoom, which by the way, they rarely do, we will absolutely do it. But we rarely get asked to be on Zoom because they're not trying to sell themselves to us. They don't have to have their hair combed or they might have on their Lulus or whatever. Who cares? That does not affect their credit score. So we don't even go down that path. And also if they are on the phone, then they're listening to the details more so than trying to create a complete sort of image thing. So we've had success with this for years. I am not closing the door to using cameras in the future because, again, one of the things that keeps me up at night is the rapidly declining age of our candidates. And so we want to make sure we're delivering the messaging and answering their questions in the way they want it delivered, and highly cognizant of that. Back to the emotional intelligence piece.
For sure.
What do you see as the differences between the way the generations like to obtain, receive information?
My just quick off the cuff answer to that is the older, let's say 55 and older, are used to being told the detail. Start at the beginning, go through the process, and I may ask questions along the way, or I may ask them at the end, depending on where I fall on the compass, right? The younger they are, the more research they've done on their own. So they don't want to hear the part that they've already figured out for themselves. They want to talk more about either differentiators or specifics of how it applies to them. So they don't want to hear, like back to Rebecca saying she showed her PowerPoint. Her PowerPoint was very likely generic to all the potential clients. This person, he didn't want the generic thing. Talk about me. How does this help me? And so that is what the younger folks are doing. And frankly, yay us, because that's easier to just get straight to the point. Well, we've looked at your financials. Your credit score's, 700. That's good. This is good. That's good. Boom, boom. Move to the solution. Or your credit score is 560. You don't have two nickels to rub together. And we're not dream killers, but we don't have a solution for you.
Oh, sorry. Yes, so sorry. Oh my goodness. All right, I have a question. I just took notes on that, by the way. I hope others that are listening took notes on that because I just realized mistakes I was making. So, and I'm supposedly a communication expert and a human behavior expert, but I just learned something for Sherri Seiber. Okay, so take note, everyone.
And I'm older than you.
So, Sherri, when you look at your life in hindsight, right? You're looking back at it. Do you see any kind of a theme or a thread or a motto or a belief that seems to continually be part of who you are?
Well, yes. And I will tell you that years, 100 years ago, it seems like, but my mother told me at a fairly early age, in high school maybe, you're not better than anybody, but nobody is better than you. With that little piece of validation, kind of made me fearless. I mean, I really have never had, first of all, I've never had any problem working with men or women. I've never automatically respected somebody because they had a certain role, certain job, a certain gender, whatever. I have always sort of owned my ability to assess somebody and make my own determination about their value to me or whether they deserve my respect or whatever. And I don't know why, I just didn't get the gene of, I'll just say this, women in my generation, and I am going to take some credit for forging the way for the younger generations because for many years, I was either the one or only or one or two women executives in big rooms, big companies, Motorola, Flextronics, and also being responsible for the top 10 customers of Flextronics. That's was Cisco and Hewlett Packard and Samsung and, all kinds of huge companies. And I just never thought that I didn't belong somewhere. There was no indication that I didn't. So, I always advise people, sit at the table. Don't be the person in the back of the room. You deserve to be there. And I give my mother the credit for that. And my father was, when I think back to the charismatic comment, my father was an extremely charismatic person. He never met a stranger. And I guess I sort of picked that up. He was a very popular guy, although believe it or not, he never thought I needed more than a couple of years of college. What are you going to need that for? He of course paid for all of it, but he had made that comment versus my mother's comment that you're not better than anybody, but nobody's better than you. I mean, those are powerful combinations. And so I guess I've sort of always lived like that. I'm comfortable about anywhere, and I'm comfortable speaking to just about it. I can't think of anybody that I wouldn't walk up to and say hello.
Man, those early childhood messages are so important and how they're delivered. Because when you said that, it made me think about the message that my mom used to tell me. And it was, inside this house, you're special, outside, you're not. But I think she forgot to tell me the other half. Now, like, nobody's more special than you outside.
Right.
But I think she didn't know how to relay that message. But what a difference it makes. What a
I love
difference.
that.
Yeah.
I will hope then that everybody listening to this conversation that has children, make sure you deliver both parts of the message.
Both parts. Big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, I think that's such an excellent point, guys. I was raised in a very religious environment, and I was told I was nothing. I was a speck of dirt. And it's a daily battle to get beyond that. So your mom did you a huge favor, Sherri, and of course your dad was a wonderful model of charisma and loving people and attracting people and being so, and you got the best of both of them, no doubt. So let me ask you about the future, Sherri. Um, what's going on in the world of funding that people need to know about, and what changes do you see that might happen, especially now that we have younger and younger candidates considering going into business?
I think 2025 is going to be so exciting. There are already signs. I think the new administration is very big on small business and are taking steps to make sure that they're not doing anything to impede the growth of small business. I mean, the fact that Matt Haller's office was one of the first phone calls made by the new administration. And then we were honored that one of Matt's next phone calls was to Jeff Seiber, saying, "What do you want me to tell him?" You know, what are the things that they need to make sure to work on and to help us? So all of that is exciting. The general public, from who we're talking to today, the people being referred to us, by the way, FranFund is 98% referral. So that's why I pay very much attention to, you know, we're not selling anything, right? We've been referred to this person. There's no cold call, blah, blah, blah. But there's a lot of excitement and people are ready to get started. If they were considering business ownership last year, they were wishy-washy. They took, you may have heard franchise development people talking about last year was so kind of bizarre. People were taking longer time to make decisions. They were wishy-washy. We would, you know, we might ask them, are you, you know, is there something that you're kind of waiting for or whatever, expecting somebody to say, well, we want to see the outcome of the election. Nobody would say that out loud. But voila, the election happened and boom, all of a sudden lead flow has increased. So there is a correlation that nobody was willing to talk about, but absolutely was there. And so there's some confidence in the public, and that is going to bode well because at the same time, interest rates are starting to decline, and that is always a positive sign. There's a tremendous number of franchise brands that can demonstrate the success that they have across the country. There's a lot of them that are growing. There's even the older ones that are, you know, they're different kind of, as, gosh, I'm gonna give Rebecca's spiel right now though, but like an older brand that's been around 30 years, maybe looking for a different franchisee than an emerging brand. And all of them are out there right now. And the franchises are available for them. And God bless America. I hope they get matched up with the right one. And we're hoping to fund those people. And, you know, I really think it's going to be a great, great year. SBA is one of, in case you guys didn't realize this, the SBA does not actually lend money. But when you listen to them talk, sometimes they sound like they're the bank. They are not the bank. They simply provide a guarantee to the lenders to make them more comfortable with what they consider riskier loans. And a bank considers any first-time business owner a risk. I don't care if they start out with $1 billion or $100, you are a risk. So SBA is a great benefit to franchising because it's a great way to get your franchise funded. The rollover for business startup process, or the acronym IRS coined, ROBS, is also strong because people's portfolios are doing pretty well, right? So you're investing in your business. If you plan on getting up every day and working your tail off in your new business, and you have used your retirement funds to invest in that business, then your investment is going to be fruitful and your 401k is going to grow. If you're not, please do not use your retirement funds to start a business. But that's happening right now. So we're just seeing lots of positivity, and it's really fun to see. I think the atmosphere at IFA next week is going to be sizzling. And I frankly can't wait. And I'm going to find all the people in the corner. So if you're listening and you're in the corner, I'm coming for you.
Great.
I'm so glad you articulated, because there is a buzz right now and people are so optimistic. I just was talking to an older broker who was supposed to go into semi-retirement, and I said, "How are you and your wife doing?" Blah blah blah. In my email, he said, "Rebecca, I got so many leads, I don't know what to do. I can't go into retirement." And he brought up the same reason. There is this people are wanting to go in business because they now see that they can do it, right? And with the new administration that's friendly to small business, things are going to be a lot easier for people. So I'm glad you articulated that, and FranFund being at the forefront of that, helping people do what's right and best so they don't do dumb things financially, but instead do some of these ROBs and other programs that you have. So let me ask you about boo-boos and boo-boos. Something that happened to you that you learned a lot from. You bumped your head, just you had to overcome an obstacle, something that really helped you be who you are today and could possibly be a lesson for someone else.
Well, I'm going to go back to, I sort of started down the path of my early career and being surrounded by men all the time. And you have to advocate for yourself. And if you don't, you will not achieve your goal. One thing that men do, and please nobody take away anything about me. I love, the male population is necessary.
We love them.
And important. So I am not a man hater, but I learned early in my career that men will brag about their achievements to their boss, to anybody that'll listen, to their peers, whatever. And I always assumed that my achievements would be recognized without me having to explain them. That is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them will, by necessity, and most of them, though, the big ones, the important ones, will not, because some of those important ones, also back to the emotional intelligence part of it, right? Some of them are subtle, but big. And so you have to advocate for yourself. And so I learned that, like I'd see back when I was working in a big corporate office, there's a revolving door in my boss's office all day. And then we'd have lunch together and he'd say, "Well, did you know Johnny did this and Sal and Jerry did that and Doug did that?" What? But so then I had to start saying, okay, well, Sherri did this, 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 and this. Naughty, naughty, boo-boo, right? So I guess that was a kind of I could have been farther faster maybe if I'd started bragging sooner.
Wow. That really is a big difference between men and women, where men will kind of throw their hat in the ring a lot quicker than a woman will, right? Can you talk about the difference in confidence?
Men never consider whether or not they belong somewhere. They just go. That should be adopted by all.
Yes.
And that is something that I learned several years ago. And therefore, I sit at the table, I sit in the front of the room, I sit at the table, I'm present, I'm aware of my surroundings. And if I need to make somebody aware of me being there, I will do so. I speak up. I don't wait.
As you're talking about that, Sherri, that men feel they belong no matter where they are, where women have a more difficultness, if that's a word, difficultness, about feeling like they belong. And it made me go back to the Maslow theory, right, of hierarchy of needs that we have, and belonging being foundational to our safety and our security. So if a woman goes into a job, board meeting, whatever she's going to, and she doesn't have that foundation of safety and security that comes from feeling like belonging, it's going to be harder for her to elevate her life, right? To have greater success. Do So you said you encourage this other women to just do it, just have that feeling and do it. And your mom gave you some great influence that built that confidence. Is there another tip you can give us for those that don't naturally do that, that where we make it top of mind to go in feeling like I belong?
You know, it's well, along with me finding the people on the fringe, when I see people that maybe they're not on the fringe, but their their career, I observe that I think they ought to be further than they are. I will also grab them up and say, look, you need to take some action here. You're good. You need to figure out how to get some recognition for your talent. And so I could name a few people that would say, yeah, Sherri told me to get off my butt and go do something. And I also, along those lines, our team here, because there is no I, right? Our team do not compete with each other. They support each other. And the reason they support each other is because once you start playing for the team, you realize that a rising tide raises all the boats, not just your boat. So that's a philosophy that I insist on, and it is extremely effective, makes the team love each other, and it creates success. And we got a trophy case full of stuff that proves that.
Which goes back with what you were saying, once they feel they belong and they're part of a team and they're encouraged to have one another's back, the tide rises and everyone rises. If I'm out there by myself, and even worse, if I'm competing with what really should be a teammate, um, the overall benefit is much, much less. Even if I win that deal, it's not.
Absolutely.
Right. So we start with that sense of belonging, which takes me back to where Tracy started this conversation around that really is your gifting. You have that charisma that draws people to you and also goes out and pulls people in. You have charisma that I haven't seen in very many people, Sherri. And it's enviable, is all
You
I can.
guys are, that's enough with the, thank you. I really appreciate that, but wow, that's a
Yeah,
lot of praise for one person.
it's well deserved. I want to thank you for joining us today, Sherri, and sharing a piece of your heart and your mind. And I took lots of notes. I hope others have too. So thank you for being here. How do folks get hold of you to learn more about funding options, etc.?
Well, my email is sseiber@franfund.com. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and Insta. I'm going to be at IFA next week. Come and grab me. Send up a flare. Call, you can find me, I promise. If you're interested in talking to me, I am findable.
You are findable. Tracy, you always do such a beautiful wrap up. I'm going to punt it over to you to do just that.
Thank you, Rebecca. You know, Sherri, just after hearing you talk and the way you're just carrying the conversation, but it sounds like you're so encouraging with your team, you know, everything from grabbing people on the fringe to bringing in an emotional intelligence expert, you know, for an extended period of time, not just once to hear something, but like really to be invested in it. You're the perfect combination of welcoming and knowledgeable and encouraging and advocating. I think it's just such a beautiful combination to have all of those together, being such a sharp businesswoman, but still having the empathy for people who don't maybe have the skills that you've acquired throughout the years. So just thank you for who you show up as and how you create the space for others to grow.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Tracy. That was lovely. I appreciate you both very much.
Thank you so much, Sherri. I echo your sentiments there. Tracy. And for those of you listening in today, thank you for doing so. Make sure to comment, like, share Sherri Seiber's interview. And of course, we're going to see you next week on another interview on the Franchise Woman podcast, where passion and purpose collide, profits are made, and relationships forged.